2017 Chevy Silverado 1500. Gonna do rear axle seals. If the backing plate's all wet and collecting dirt, and your rotor looks like it's full of oil, and most likely your axle seal is leaking. So I'm gonna do both sides. The driver's side's the one that's leaking, but I'm gonna do both sides. So what you need to do is remove your caliper. So you need to remove the two caliper bolts. There's one here and there's one down here. And they are 13 millimeter. And if your slide pin turns with it and you can't get the bolt loose, you'll need a 20 millimeter socket, not a socket, a wrench, 20 millimeter wrench. Or you can use a pair of large needle nose vice grips to get in there and hold it. But it is a 20 millimeter for the slide pin, okay? And next, once you got those bolts out, then you need to remove your caliper. And you can get a flat blade screwdriver for that. Stick it in here and just pry it up against it. And just pull it off, okay? You might want to just reach inside there where the piston's at and just give it a little bit of a push just to release some of the pressure on here so it will be more freely. Okay, and if you're going to do brakes and it needs brakes, now's the time to do it. Okay, if it needs brakes, then you'll need to push your pistons in with an old pad and a C-clamp and push the pistons in. Make sure that the boots aren't torn or the caliper's leaking any fluid. Next thing you need to do is remove your caliper bracket. And most likely that's an 18. Two 18 millimeter bolts on the back side. One right here and one right there. You need to remove those. Okay. You need to remove the two caliper bracket bolts. Those are 18 millimeter. You can use a breaker bar with a pipe to break them loose, and then you can use your impact or air ratchet or even a ratchet, but they are in there pretty tight. Once you remove those two bolts, then you can take off the bracket. And if you are going to do brakes, then you'll need to make sure that the slide pins are free, and you take them out and put some Sil Glide on them. And if you're replacing your pads, take the pads out and remove your abundant clips, hardware clips, and clean them up underneath. Make sure there's no rust underneath there, and then paint them, let it dry, and then get your new clips, put them in there, and then you can put your new put your bracket back on when you're going together, and put your pads in as necessary. But I'm not doing brakes, so now you can remove your rotor. Sometimes they still have the shipping clips in there to hold the rotors on while in production. You need to remove these. They always break. You can use a pair of side cuts or a small pair of screwdriver, pry them up and break them loose. Okay, then you need to remove your rotor. If your rotor is frozen on there with the rust, then you need to hit it with a hammer. This one's got the lube all over it, so it's probably not going to be stuck. So here we are. So here we are. I'm going to remove the rotor. And as you see, it's all wet. There isn't no wheel cylinder in here, so it's got to be the axle seal. So now we're going to replace the axle seal, but we have to remove the rear end cover first. But since I'm doing both sides, I'm going to get both sides apart to where I'm at right now, and then we'll get to the rear diff cover. Okay, I got both sides of the brakes apart and the drums off. Now all I need to do is remove the rear end cover. And those are held on by 10 millimeter head bolts. And there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, 12 bolts, okay? Put 2 back in before you get it all the way loose. One here and one there. So when you get the rest of them out, it'll open up and you can pry it away with a screwdriver a little bit and drain it into your pan. Not on your floor. Okay, so now I'm going to remove all the rest of my bolts. And I'm going to remove my cover. Okay, the cover's off. It's got a reusable gasket. Try to remove that without damaging it. What you want to do is clean up your rear cover and then clean up your cover gasket. Do not use any braces on any sandpaper or anything. Just use some cleaner and a towel and wipe it off. But you can clean up your cover, get all the rust and crap off of it, and get that nice and shiny, and have it ready to go together. All right, here we are. This is the pinion shaft. Okay, you need to remove that so you can push the axles in to remove the C-clips on your axles. Okay, the end of the axle has a little button on, the C-clips go in them. So you need to remove this bolt to remove this pin. This is a 10 millimeter, and I use an extension with a 10 millimeter socket on to loosen it up. All I gotta do is pull that out, and this thing is loose enough it will fall out. But if you don't see this, that means you'll need to turn the case, which is this. So we need to put it in neutral so we can turn it. And I need to turn it anyway so I can see up inside the bottom, because up in here is the components for the posi unit. Not posi, but limited slip. So it will need additive for limited slip. So I want to be able to turn this, and it's in park still, so we need to take it out of park. Get some penetrant, spray it on your shifter assembly right here. Here's your cable, and here's your linkage. Get your screwdriver in there and pry it off a little bit, and it'll come off. Just twist your screwdriver. Nothing ever goes good when I got one hand. So I need to get two hands up in there. So hold on. There you go. You can see it better now. All right. I pried it off. It gets some rust in there. It don't want to work off. It doesn't want to come off easily. So you just gotta work it back and forth and you can pry it off. Try not to break it. It just clips in there. So put some penetrant in there and make sure to work it around and then pry it off. And once you get it off, take it out of park. Move the shifter. That's all you gotta do. Okay? Okay. I need to see a little bit. What you can do is go to your drive shaft, turn the drive shaft with your screwdriver, because it's gonna be tough to turn going the wrong way. So make sure you turn it the right way. Take a screwdriver into your U-joint assembly. Turn it. I want to turn it enough that I can actually see inside there, so you can see what's going on. Okay, so here we are at the bottom. And the button's gonna show up right about here against this block. Okay, so I need to pull the pin out, pull the bolt out, and then pull the pin out and get my finger down underneath here, and I'll push it up so I can grab it. Okay, here's the bolt. Can't remove it all the way because of the cap, but it's out far enough that I can remove the pin. So I pushed the pin up from inside there and grabbed it and pulled it out. So I can pull that out. All right, so now you see right here, that's the axle. And if you see the bronze color, copper color, that's the pin. Okay, see the pin over there? There's one on each side. So you go over here to the axle, push the axle in best you can. Sometimes you might have to tap on the end of them with a mini sledge. Come back over here, and it's not far enough out for that C-clip to fall out. So what I'll do is I get my mini sledge and I'll tap on the axle on the inside. right here, and it'll help push it in a little bit more. All right, this is my mini sludge. I'll tap on right here. Just push it in a little bit. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it don't. Then you need a little magnet, pen magnet, a little bit bigger than a pen magnet. And come over here off to the side. See if you can pull that thing out of there. And pry it out to the side and pull it out. Mine is not small enough to get in there. So I need a smaller one to get in there. Hold on. Okay, I got a smaller magnet, okay, a little bit smaller. What you need to do is turn the C-clip inside here so you get the opening. There's the opening, okay? Now take a screwdriver in there, pry it over as much as you can. As you're prying it over, you want to get your magnet in there. And you want to work that C-clip back the other way. So it comes out like that. Okay? So I pried that axle over that way with the screwdriver. Get a little bit more. And then got in there my little magnet and pulled it out. Okay. Got that one to go to also. I'll tap on with my hammer. Might not help, but sometimes it does. Okay. That's that. Didn't help anything. Now, find that C-clip and turn it best you can. Okay. Push the C-clip down a little bit. Get your screwdriver in there. Pry it over as best you can. And then turn that C-clip with your magnet. Try to pull it out. You might have to take a couple tries to get it. But that's what you need to do. I need to pry that sucker over. Okay. See how it moves. Alright, so I need to pry it over and hold the axle over and then use my magnet and pull that C-clip out. Okay, as I pry that axle over, I need something to hold it. So I got these big vice grips. And I tighten them up, and I tighten it up enough that it's actually holding it in there. And I can remove the C-clip. All right. Lucky I bought those. Bought those from Harbor Freight years ago. Finally get to use them. All right. So now I get to release my big vice grips. And now, no C-clips in there. Now you can pull your axle. Oh man, come on, really? Nothing's going my way today. What the heck? I'm gonna give me a pry bar and I'm gonna pry that axle out. Hold on. Okay. There's a solid part right there where the adjuster's at. Not the adjuster, but the lever mechanism for the parking brake. I'm pry up against it. Ah. Mama. Huh. I hope this isn't an indication that there's other things wrong with this hunker. Usually they just pull right out. We'll go to the other side. See how the other side is. Let's see how much kind of luck we're gonna have with this side. Huh? Same squat. Huh. All right, let me see. Okay, I had to pry on it pretty good. It came out. Okay, right here, this line is, that's where the seal rides. And right here, this area here, that's where the bearing rides. You want to make sure that there's no metal missing out of this surface right here. You don't want to see no chatter marks or anything. If you see chatter marks in it or any pits in it, then you need to replace the axle and the bearing. Okay? I'm going to go pull the other side and inspect that one as well. Okay, this side's okay as well. Took extra effort to pry it up off of there. Remember, that's where the seal rides and that's where the bearing rides. It all looks good. So now you need to pull the axles all the way out and wipe them off as you pull them out. Okay, next you want to remove your seal, the pry bar, with an angle on it. And then you want to stick a rag over it, if you can. Best you can. Because when you pry it out, you're going to get a face full of a couple nice shots of gear lube. So I always put a rag over it to help keep it from splattering around. Okay, it's out. And when you do it like in a real fast motion. Don't take your time, okay? Then you want to look at your bearing inside here. Make sure there's no flat spots or chatter marks in any of them. There's flat spots in them. Replace it before it damages your axle. Okay, so pull both seals out and inspect both sides. And if you happen to get lucky like me today, that seal didn't want to come out. So now all I need to do is get my screwdriver, hit it on the edge right here, my screwdriver and a hammer. Okay? Pound it up. Boom. Okay? Just keep working at it, you know, all the way around. Do as much as you want, and then get your pry bar back in there and see if you can pry it out. Okay. All right, I got it. Make sure you wipe the inside that area where the seal goes and recheck your bearing. All right, now you want to clean it up with some soap and water. Try not to use any brake clean because brake clean removes paint and you don't want to turn all your nice painted stuff into rust. Okay. Okay, now that you got this all cleaned up in here, see how this one's kind of rusty? Rub your finger there and see if you feel an edge of rust. If there's got an edge of rust, remove it. Okay, so now I got my new seal. I mashed it up to the old ones best I could. And I packed grease around it, around the spring, so the spring doesn't just pop off when I tap it in. Okay. Make sure it's nice and clean inside there. And I'll give me a hammer and I'll work my way around it, tapping it and getting it evenly started, and then I can work my way around it. If you got a tool that's flat, like a big bearing installer, use the flat part of it, and you can use that also. But I'll use a ball peen hammer, about that size. Works the best for me. Okay, it's in there. And now I'll do the other side. Okay, here's the leaky side. Got it cleaned up best I could. Now I'm gonna put my seal in. I'm gonna get it started and work my way around. Okay, here it is. I got it just started just a little bit. next, get a big wad of grease on your finger, wipe it around inside the bearing, go down there to your axle, wipe it around there with some grease, and then slide your axle in here straight as possible. And then when you get to the end, you want to tilt that axle up and kind of twist it a little bit so it gets started in the splines. And then once it gets started in the splines, push it all the way in. Okay, got some grease in there in the bearing. Got some grease in my shaft. Now I'm gonna get it in there and try to put it in here at a level angle as best as possible, and try not to hit the seal with my axle.